Good morning, and thank you for watching another episode of Super Show Sunday here on the Ron Talks Tabletop YouTube channel. I am here today with Drew Madsen of the TVA Play Group. I wanted to get a chance to chat with him a little bit and get to know him and hopefully get you folks to find out a little bit more about him and what he does. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here.
All right. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's we were just talking about the morning. It's been a minute since I've been up this early since I've been on a night shift for work. So it's like I had to set the alarm and just hit the snooze button. And my whenever I hit the snooze multiple times, my dog finally just stares at me and it's like, get on with it. Like just get up already.
so, so your dogs don't bother you in the morning, like because I
So
know dogs did.
I get what you're saying, but I like through my entire life I love big dogs. And so my dog is like an 80-pound Great Pyrenees Evie, vote for her pet for the year. She's great. The so if I let her out at night, like luckily like she's large enough to where her bladder's like good for like 12 hours. And I used to work 12-hour shifts, so that was good. So like she's ever since she's been like grown, like she never had an issue just like napping and just being fine. I've been very lucky that she's really good about like doesn't need to wake me up at 5 in the morning to be let out or anything like that.
Well, that's good. All right, so let's go ahead and get into these questions and have a little conversation here.
Sure.
So, Drew, how and when did you get into Super Show the game?
So it started through my friends. I believe it was Dwayne and Will who first got into it at Huntsville Con 2 years ago. It was, I think Huntsville Con is in April. Uh, so April 2021. The the funny thing, or no, I guess it was 22. Oh wow, time is weird. uh, it feels longer than it actually has been. Uh, so 2022 Huntsville Con, they uh, they started. They heard the ring bell at the con, and they got interested in it because they're wrestling fans. Dwayne and his wife, Chuck and his wife, and then Will and his wife. Uh, they got interested in it. They played a few. They bought some, and now I have known Will and Chuck for 20 years. I went to high school with both of them. Will is like a year older or 2 years older than me, but he was still in high school with us, and I was on the football team with both of them. We've known each other for that long. We've been friends for that long. I know anytime that they get interested in something, I have to give them a breather to see if they're actually going to stick with it. Because there's been times where it's like, hey, we're gonna all play this video game together, and I buy it, and we just never play it again. Which I'm sure a bunch of friend groups that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, we're all gonna play this super expensive board game together, and then it's like, oh, it takes 4 hours, and we're adults, and we can't find time to play it anymore. Things like that. I gave it a few months, and in July, we were hanging out. I believe it was like around the time of my birthday. My birthday's in the middle of the July, and they were over for my house. We were going swimming and hanging out, like having a cookout. And I finally was like starting to break down and be like, okay, you know what? I'm just like build me a deck and like let's see what this is actually about. And I played the Brian Cage Steel Cage deck. I think it was might have been like straight out of the box. And I was like, oh, I know Brian Cage. It's like I watched Lucha Underground, so I know Brian Cage. And I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed the fact and this, I guess, the famous Candyman Dan story now that you can take a starter box and win an event because Dan Hughes took a Snake Pit starter deck, changed maybe one card, and won a CAC. And just straight out of the box, and the fact, because you could never do that in something like Magic the Gathering. Not like no chance, because there are people with $1,000 decks, 1,000+ that wouldn't make tops at their locals. And I hadn't even discovered the like role playing, because I mean that's really what it is. You role playing wrestlers
Yep. Yeah.
aspect. And I started following, and it's like, yeah, it's random, but you know what? Who cares? Like I play D&D. Like sometimes you miss the skill check. Who cares? It just happens. So I've always been like, yeah, it's dice. Like I'm of the opinion of like not quite fate, but just like if you don't roll it, like you are never going to roll it. It's like you can be like, oh, I would have done this, I would have done this, but it's like the butterfly flaps its wings. You were never going to happen. It was never going. It's like it didn't happen. It was never going to happen. Don't worry about it. And
Right.
and after like seeing, and I believe it was Zach who was talking about, oh well, they have online events, and it was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll eventually get into that. And I had and that's why I started looking into like buying cards and buying decks, and started borrowing cards. And the first event I ever played in online was a Monday Night Fights, uh, and it was I opened up a signed Jay White, like because I liked Jay White, the wrestler, and I got it in the mail and opened it up, made sure my deck was together, and then like started the event half an hour later, and I won that night because it was just straight up beginner's luck. I actually beat Zach in the semifinals, and before I went into the finals, he was like, well, congratulations, the final you're going into is against someone named John Polverino. He is widely considered the best player the best player ever. He's called the player of the era. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, why are you telling me this? And then I played and I won by countout, and I think he was just as shocked as I was. And it was yeah, since then I've been hooked. Generally whenever you play something and you win early, you're kind of hooked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah, that's how I got into it. Like after that I was like, all right, I'm hooked.
Nice. So tell me, what is it that you love about the game? What gets you excited?
Part of it is that the fact that I can tell people it's like it's a game where you can put as much into it as you want and get something out of it, or you could put a little into it and still have a great time, based around the fact that it's like you can have a quote unquote not optimal deck and still be okay, still have a chance to win, like an even chance to win, just based on the dice rolls. And even past like gameplay stuff, it's like role playing is fun. Talking smack is fun, because like as I mentioned, like I played like I went to a city school and I played football. So like, yes, talking smack is something that you grow up with, and it's like we're all a bunch of adults on the internet. So sometimes it can go further for some people, and
Yeah.
generally whenever I get into a bit with someone, like I private message them beforehand, and I'm like, hey, I'm just letting you know, like this is what I plan to be, like work towards, etc. And but that aspect is something that I've fallen into a bit. It's like the promos and doing stuff like that, and I didn't anticipate I would, and that's been really fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed some of the promos that you've cut in the TVA's cut. It's been enjoyable. As a matter of fact, I think one of the first things that really started to like hook me into like being involved in the community is watching the promos.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just fun. It's just entertaining. That's the name of the game, right? Um, and so
Yeah, it's the nature
yeah,
of wrestling. Like
yeah.
always has been.
This is just a LARP with cards and dice.
Absolutely.
I've alluded to it a little bit, but what is your involvement in the Super Show community?
Involvement is a interesting word because as far as the actual company, I'm not involved at all. But as I guess it's a somewhat like I lead my own faction, the Constellation. It is like it's mainly like a group of my friends and people we were already hanging out. Uh, and so I I'm the captain of that faction. I uh, lead the TVA, but functionally it's more of like it's a position of authority, but I still have to uh, talk to and argue with five of my closest friends, like five plus of my closest friends. So it's like it's not quite that easy. Uh, other than that, like I enjoy playing quite a bit. I've because of my new schedule, I don't get to as much, and that's a shame. I may actually play in like the random pop up that's tonight if I'm not at a friend's house. But the I used to play at least one weekly event for like a year plus, and that's why a lot of people got to know me through that, and I and it's like if I like I didn't like rage quit or like immediately dip out if I lost, like I'd hang out and talk to people because uh part of it, it's like because I generally do enjoy a ton of people in this community, so like hey, nice to talk to you, and it's like it's cool that I can have friends like in Philadelphia, in Ohio, and stuff like that, because it's like I would have never been able to connect with them.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this community, right? Like um, connecting with all these people in different parts of the country that you wouldn't normally get a chance to hang out with.
Babata mentioned it last night, like at Captain Con last year. Like he started a chant for us at Rhode Island of all places, and like watching that from like my desk at work in Alabama, like hearing people cheer for me and my friends in Rhode Island was like a big like eyes wide open thing. Like oh my god.
Yeah. Let's talk about that play group that you and your friends are involved in that started the TVA. When did you guys decide to establish a play group, and like how is it run? So I know you talked about it a little bit, which is amusing.
So we decided to form the TBA because we had been trying to get our names out there because like I had won at events and uh I believe Zach had won an event and we were known, like we had been making top cuts and everything, but we still hadn't been like talked about or as like new players or like any title shots or anything. And they were like, in this community for that, like you need to be talked about for people to be in your mind, like for you to be in people's minds and decision makers' minds, because it's like if you don't take down events, like no one's just gonna hand you something for free. Or take down, or at least like be a solid, like show up every now and then and do well. I was like, screw it. Like I have this suit that I got from my friend's wedding literally that year. I had never worn, like I never had a suit in my life. So my friend's wedding suit, he was like, well, we can rent tuxes for like $220, or we could just buy them for 250. And I was like, this is the best idea I've ever heard in my life. So I got a custom suit for $250 from Joseph Bank, which is impressive in my
Yeah.
for a man my size. It's like, and they're like, yeah, with the suit's only so and so, and I was like, cool, this is awesome. I cut the initial promo after Rising Stars pairings got announced, and it was like introducing each member who their rising stars coach was, talking about each person, etc. We cut it after a locals one night. I was like, you know what? We're all here and we were doing it at my house. So I was like, let's just do it. Like the purpose, yeah, just to get our names out there and sit. And after that, it's like, and the TVA name, I didn't come up with it, but I believe it was either Zach or Chuck. It was. I just know it was not me. And it was Total Violence Alliance. But I don't know. Have you been like born and raised in the South, Ron?
Yeah, and I also work in the power industry.
Oh, so
So
you
like
know all about the TVA.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that so that's why I tell people it's like, what's the TVA? It's like, well, for us it means something entirely different because like Will could see Browns Ferry nuclear power plant from his house. So so it's like the South, and especially the Tennessee Valley that we live in, it's like we are incredibly dependent on the TVA, and so that's why it's always on our minds. And so that's why we were like, you know what, cool, the Total Violence Alliance, make the words fit the letters. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and that's why I was always like, you know what, we're right next to the TVA. Why don't we give that and try that? How I run it, I try and make decisions based on what my friends want to do, because like right now our biggest issue is that we do not have a great place to like have locals, and it's something I'm extremely jealous of ACCW and like other places that have stores that support them, because our local store is not my favorite. We may have to be playing at people's houses and stuff like that for until we can figure out what we want to do, because the other options are a fair drive away for some people. So we're trying to figure that out. Running that is the biggest issue of running a play group. If you don't have a home, you have to try and have locals any way you can. We honestly may be experimenting with like online locals or like just like invitationals like on Discord, because it's just hard. And online may be easier for people with families, people with schedules where it's like, I don't know if I could drive half an hour to the card shop and be there for 3 hours.
The travel, that's a challenge. It really is. Like it could be an obstacle to building a consistent play group. So I understand that. But you know what? You guys formed a formal local promotion to get your names out there, and you certainly are. Chuck was the trios champion. Will was the Hollywood champion for a good long run. That was fun
He also
watching.
won Intergalactic.
He also won in the Galactic, yeah. So it's like, and I don't remember everybody else's accolades, what have you. But Possum,
oh god, yeah, the
Tank,
possum.
he's there, right? Yeah.
He is one of the most entertaining and
Yeah.
entertaining and sweetest people.
That guy's awesome. I met him in person at the Atlanta CAC. He's a great guy, but he's funny as all get out. Like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. It's like if you have a conversation on the internet or in person with the Possum King, you do not know where it'll go. Like it's like people very much like adding him to group chats. It's just throwing off a grenade. It's like, well, we'll see what he says today.
so I know that you do other stuff here in the community, like a show that happens on Friday night on Twitch, Candy Shop Talk. How did that come about? And can you tell me a little bit about what it's about?
So Candy Shop Talk was always Will and Angela. Like they always them. Like I make no claims on being involved in the creation or the first dozen so episodes at all. I watched and I enjoyed it. It initially was all in character. Sometimes that would break, like with like with Ryan Schmidt, he talked a lot about his past, and like that was some of the stuff that I was like really more invested in because I enjoy getting to know people personally. Like the gimmick stuff is all cool, but if I don't know you, it's harder for me. But this has been like for my entire life. It's like if I don't know you like that, it's harder to connect with you and like where is this character coming from, stuff like that. And
Right.
eventually when so Johnny Coria was on there and there was no audio and I was like, bro, we have got to do something about this. And that's why I was like, I'm gonna teach you about this thing called StreamYard. And it's free. And it's like you just StreamYard.com, you connect to whatever you wanna record to. You can do pre-recorded or live, and showed him what all I could do, and we started using that, and I got involved as mainly like the button pusher, and I didn't initially expect to be put like as involved with the talking. I thought I was just going to be like backstage kind of thing, just like bringing people on, whatsoever, just running it for them. But I have been, and it's been fun. Yeah, the first show was Bob Dunn because I believe it was Bob Dunn, and it was like he wanted to talk like because he had been upset by some.
He was pissed.
Yeah, he was pissed. Yeah, he had been upset and really wanted to talk about some stuff that had upset him, and was like, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about that. And I hope that he felt better after that. He seems less pissed now, so maybe that helps. Uh, we had Johnny Korea on there, and we talked. And Johnny Korea actually, I helped him, showed him like what all you could do on StreamYard, and that's where Blind Tech is from. They had the idea, but didn't know quite how to do it, so they actually share my StreamYard account to to use to shoot Blind Tech, which is funny. I enjoy finding out people's history with the game because it's like you talk with people like Loudmouth, Leo Larynx, and Horse, and they've been in this game for like more than half a decade, man. And it's like for newer people like us, like I don't have that history or connection, and finding out more about that is way and I love history, so it's like I always say it's like finding out more stuff about history, like it helps you like connect to where you are today and stuff like that. It's like because Loudmouth is here talking about like the could have beens with like Cody Rhodes and Dalton Castle and stuff like that, and it's stuff that people had no idea about unless you were there. And
Right.
then you talk about like just all of these stories from people a long time ago. And it's like I didn't know that like Loudmouth was the greatest high water player ever and won player of the year based on his high water and stuff like that. And it
Yeah.
and it's just thing and it's stuff like that you can get out of interviews that are really cool that I enjoy a lot.
So I don't know if you really thought about this, but where do you see things going in the future for you and the TVA? What's your hope and wish?
Even though I know it's a rough year, I'd like to win Rookie of the Year just because it's like I thought I had a great year and I thought I had won enough. Like I won Rising Stars, I've won several other events. I won a CAC, the second largest CAC of the year. The because Atlanta barely nudged out Misos, but that's still like 40 plus people at a CAC is rough, and to take that down is really good. I would like to win Rookie of the Year. I want to see my friends win a bunch of awards that they would be up for. I want to see like Chuck Champion of the Year. I want to see Will like Heel or Commentator of the Year. I would like to see us. We're still in a battle against the line. I would like to see us win, but it is, there's, let's see, one possible between 3 and 4 matches left. And it's like, go either way. So I would like to see us win that. As far as myself, it's rougher for me to play in weekly events, but I do now have weekends off. So I'm looking to go to more like in-person events, like maybe traveling. I know I'm going to be going to Captain Con at the beginning of February, and I'm going to be at the award show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that's all the way up in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
It's me, Chuck, and Trey, one of our local guys, going up there, and that is going to be. I'm initially from Pennsylvania, so it won't be as bad. Like Rhode Island winter, like I'll be slightly okay with it, but they will not be prepared. Uh, they are a native-born Alabama. Might be in for it.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah, that cold is going to shock them, and it's like it's going to be because they were not prepared in Cleveland on Sunday for there to be like a snowstorm.
So to wrap this interview up, I have one additional question that I always like to ask my guests. So Drew, what is something interesting about you that people may not know?
The thing that shocks people the most that they may not, because you see me, I'm 6'4.5" and very large. I was paralyzed for about a year. I had bariatric surgery, and then I had my gallbladder out, and then after a couple other things, my quadriceps stopped working. And quadriceps are the biggest muscle in your body, and they think my body just ate them from malnutrition. So I was paralyzed for a year, and that kind of shaped how I view everything and how I view a lot of people around me. A lot of the people who are part of the TVA were there for me, and it is one of the reasons why I would do anything for them. That's why I tell people it's like it's like because it was something that Bob and I actually talked about, because Bob was extremely sick,
Yep.
and like when he came back, like he was in a walker, and like when I first played him in an event, he talked about that, and I was like, and he was like, I understand it directly where you're coming from, and we connected a little bit on like mobility challenges and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, I had to do the whole rehab process.
Wow.
I still have some effects from that. If I'm tired, like my legs will randomly shake. It's still something that I remember and have to be very conscious of.
Wow. So having been around for about 5 or 6 months, you pick up on certain things, and I knew that you had a health challenge at some point in the recent past, but I didn't know it was that extensive. Man, that's
Yeah.
well, it's great to see you around and walking, because I met you last month. I
Yeah,
wouldn't have known that you had that challenge. How long ago was that? You
that
you
was that was around October of 2012.
Wow. So being that age and like being paralyzed, that must have been devastating.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not how you would like to spend your early 20s. I did gain my mobility back over the course of a year from like a ton of rehab. And like I went to rehab like 3 times a week, and they would just stick the electric prods to my legs and force them to work. And then we would do pool therapy, all this, and it took a lot of work, but eventually it went to like that, to using a walker, then do a cane, or it went wheelchair, walker, cane, and then walking on my own. And because I'm a big goofy nerd, I had a sword cane.
Of
uh
course. Of course.
of course. And it was very funny because like I'm an incredibly heavy person, and I didn't feel, and like because I like lifted weights and like played football, like my arm strength was stronger than the average bear. I didn't like the canes that they would give, like typically you use a cane if you're like 50 plus, so they were all like lightweight. And I was like, well, I already have a cane, a sword cane that I'll use. And because it's like it was heavier, and that's why I was using it, because it was heavier, it was sturdier. I had to tape it up because like one of the O-rings was messed up, and one of my physical therapists picked it up, and she was like, "Wow, I really like your cane. It's got like a nice heft to it." And I was like, "Yeah, it's because there's like 16 inches of carbon steel on the thing." I was like, yeah, that'll do it. That's what I tell people. It's like I was accidentally carrying around a weapon, just like it's like. Luckily, it's like a concealed carry in Alabama, but it's like I just taped it up a lot because it was like I truly was just using it because of it was several pounds heavier, and because otherwise, like with small canes, my wrist would just flick the smaller ones, but. That's why I tell people it's like I just because I'm a big goofy nerd, I was prepared for my paralysis by already having a cane.
That's funny. I know it was a while ago, but it's great that you have your mobility back, and it's an inspiring story. And you've done a lot in Super Show already, from what little that I've seen. I'm looking forward to seeing your future success.
Thank you, Matt. It's been a fun year. I hope it will be continue to be so. I'm looking forward to it. I still have fun with the game.
Awesome. With that being said, we're going to sign off right here. Any last words, Drew?
Vote for Evie Pet of the Year. I will be biased towards my dog more than any other award. Other than that, I hope you all have a great Sunday and enjoy.
Thank you. Until next time, folks. See you later.